All right, what's up, everybody? In the Pain Altitude Sports Radio 92.5, Dan Tanner here with you to break down the Nuggets loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers. All right, lots to get into with this game here tonight. This was a weird one because the Cleveland Cavaliers, they are the number one three-point shooting team in the NBA. And they absolutely dominated from deep tonight there in Cleveland. So what was so weird about this game was in the first half, the Cavs had 14 three-pointers made in that first half. The Nuggets had one. That was an MPJ three with about 3 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in the second quarter. So, what was so weird about this first half, though, was like I said, the Cavs have 14 three pointers, the Nuggets have one. The Cavs bench in that first half had 28 points to the Nuggets 6. But the Nuggets dominated in the painted area, and they were only down by 4 points at halftime. I mean, that is wild. You get outscored 28-6 on the bench, outscored 14 made threes for the Cavs, just one for the Nuggets in that first half, but it's a 4-point game at halftime. Now, the reason why, like I said, the Nuggets were able to hang around in this game was the points in the paint. I mean, at halftime, the Nuggets were up 42-18 in the painted area. So that's really what kept them in this game. But the Nuggets clearly had a game plan tonight of, I don't want to say letting the Cavs beat them from deep, but having an understanding that they were not going to go toe-to-toe with the Cavaliers from beyond the arc tonight. So it looked like the Nuggets' game plan was to dominate inside the painted area and live with the threes that Cleveland was going to make. In the first half, they kind of got away with it. But the problem is, and I kind of felt this way at halftime, even though it was just a 4-point Cavaliers lead, it just felt like there was an implosion waiting to happen. And that's exactly what we saw in the second half of this game. Now, credit to the Nuggets. I thought they fought hard towards the end of this game. They tried to make a comeback there late in this one. I think they got it to 10 in the fourth quarter, but they were just playing with fire too much. Cleveland's dominance from beyond the arc tonight was just inevitably at some point going to make it nearly impossible for the Nuggets to win this game, and that's exactly what we saw. And then in that third quarter, congratulations, by the way, to Nikola Jokic, passed Magic Johnson for the all-time triple-doubles list. He surpassed Magic Johnson tonight. So big shout out to Joker for that tremendous accomplishment. But Joker struggled in the second half of this game, and specifically in the third quarter. He shot just 2 of 8 from the field in that third quarter. And it wasn't like he was missing a bunch of difficult shots or three-pointers. I counted 3 bunnies, meaning pretty makeable shots, high percentage shots around the rim. He missed 3 of them in that third quarter. It is what it is with Joker in this game. The reason the Nuggets were not able to come back in the second half, well, number one was they just could not stop the 3 ball from Cleveland. But number 2, if Joker's not super efficient, they had no shot at making a comeback in this game, and that's what we saw in the second half. Like I said, he shoots 2 of 8 in that third quarter, and this thing was all but over at the end of that third quarter. In fact, it was 102-87 Cleveland at that point. So just very weird sort of game tonight for the Nuggets, because it just felt like the game plan was to sort of accept defeat at the 3-point line and play the inside the painted area. And they were doing it to a degree with pretty significant success in that first half. but it was just too much to overcome. And it's a dangerous game to play if you're the Nuggets against a team like Cleveland, who's now 20-3 on the season, by the way. They have the best record in the NBA. It's a dangerous game to be playing with a team that can shoot the three ball as well as Cleveland can. So, just the stats tonight too. Like if you just look at the stat line, it looked like a pretty decent game from the Nuggets as far as the starting five goes. I mean, everybody's in double figures. Christian Braun had 10 points. That was the least amount of points scored by one of the starting five. Joker goes for 27 points, 20 rebounds, 11 assists, 3 steals. Michael Porter Jr., 24 points on 8 of 15 shooting, 3 of 6 from beyond the arc, 7 rebounds, couple of assists, 4 steals for MPJ. Aaron Gordon, 18 points on 8 of 13 shooting. Jamal, 19 on 7 of 16. So the starting five was pretty damn good tonight. Pretty efficient. Scoring the basketball. The bench didn't do jack squat, other than Russell Westbrook, who poured in 10. They had 16 points from their bench tonight. I mean, Karis LeVert off the bench for Cleveland had 21 by himself. So Karis LeVert outscored the entire Nuggets bench by 5 points. And again, this just goes back to an issue that's been plaguing the Nuggets all season this year for sure, and really last year as well. They're just not getting nearly enough production from their bench. And, the hope was once Aaron Gordon came back and was reinserted into the starting lineup, that would help the depth of the bench unit out. But Peyton Watson, in his 18 minutes tonight, 1 of 3 shooting with 4 points. Just not good enough. Julian Strawther, 2 points. 1 of 4 shooting. Not good enough. I've talked about how Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther, they've got to be the Nuggets' primary scorers off the bench, in my mind. That includes Russell Westbrook. I don't think you can expect Russell Westbrook to go out there and average 15 to 20 points a game. Not at this point in his career. I think Russ has the ability, like we've seen so far this year, to have big scoring games. I just don't see him being able to do that on a consistent basis. But you need your young guys, especially this year, with how restricted they are in the salary cap, second apron era of this NBA. These guys have to be more productive. 6 points combined from Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther tonight. You just can't have that. And then, Zeke Naji gets his petty 3 minutes, start in the second quarter again. He was non-existent. I mean, literally, his only stat line tonight was 1 personal foul. That was it. Didn't take a shot, didn't have a rebound, didn't have an assist, didn't have a steal, didn't have a block, didn't have a turnover, and was a -4 with 0 points. So you're not getting anything out of your bench other than Russell Westbrook on a consistent basis. Now, but I think Peyton Watson's been good this year for the most part. I think Julian Strawther has shown flashes of what he can do, but the consistency is just, it's like, it's not even close to being there. So, again, the same issues pop up for the Nuggets. Now, credit the Cavaliers. Like, they came shooting lights out in this game. They shot 22 of 48 from beyond the arc tonight. The Cavs made 22 three-pointers. The Nuggets only attempted 24. So, I'd be interested to hear Coach Malone's post-game press conference tonight and see if he's asked about, was that part of the strategy going into tonight's game? Was to just dominate inside the painted area and not give up on the 3 ball, but not prioritize the 3 ball tonight, because clearly it seemed like, watching the game, that was the plan. And it worked, like I said, for a little stretch in the first half. The Nuggets were down 4 at halftime, but it just felt like even when the Nuggets were making it close in that first half, it just felt like it was inevitable that Cleveland was ultimately going to pull away with the way they were shooting the basketball. plain and simple. So, again, another thing that plagued the Nuggets that's been an issue all year is giving up offensive rebounds. And it led to way too many easy buckets for Cleveland. Let's see here. So just in the first quarter alone, the Nuggets had 4 turnovers for 9 Cleveland points. 3 of them were wide open 3-point attempts. And then to start the second, literally the first shot of the second quarter, Cleveland hits another 3 after going 9 of 15 in the first quarter. Malone calls a timeout 13 seconds into the second quarter. That's with the second unit. That's with Zeke Naji starting at the backup 5. The second straight game he's done that. And it was just the same issues keep popping up for the Nuggets. That's what really is most concerning to me right now is these aren't like a once in a while type issues. It's every single game. The Nuggets seem to be running into the same problems with giving up way too many offensive rebounds, creating too many easy opportunities in transition for opposing teams because of turnovers, and just the complete and utter lack of impact and production from your second unit. Specifically from the guys that you need to get production from, like I mentioned earlier, in Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson. I mean, there's really not much else Malone can do at this point with the bench unit unless they make a trade. He's tried out Hunter Tyson. He's tried out Dario Saric. We've seen DeAndre Jordan get run this year. We've seen PJ Hall get into the game a couple of times this year. Jalen Pickett's been in, but that was just garbage time. What else is he going to do? You're going to play Jalen Pickett with the second unit? I mean, is that going to help this team? I don't think it is. Not, at least not right now. I mean, Jalen Pickett actually, to his credit, has been dominating the G League. I mean, dominating. But Malone clearly doesn't trust him, at least not yet, because he hasn't gotten in the game. And I don't blame him. I mean, really, ask yourself this question. If you put in Jalen Pickett over, let's say, Julian Strawther, is that going to make a difference off the bench? I mean, it would be minuscule at best, even if it did. Malone's got to ride with Strawther and Watson. He has to. He has no other options right now. I mean, that's just the hand that this team has been dealt, the hand that Malone has been dealt. They don't have any other options. You don't have a bunch of guys ripping it up in the G League right now, except for Jalen Pickett, who's been called back up and is on the active roster. So again, like for my listeners that are calling out Malone every game, I mean, I get the frustration, but I've said this time and again, what do you want him to do? There's not a whole lot that he can do right now with the roster and the secondary players that this team has. It's just as simple as that. So, it is interesting. Last game I talked about Jamal Murray and the 2-man game seeming to disappear. I thought they did actually try to go to that quite a bit tonight, and it looked somewhat like it used to. I don't think it's quite there yet, but at least they're going back to that. I mean, I saw Jamal and Joker trying to actively run the 2-man game a lot more tonight. So that was something encouraging out of this game. It's just not as effective as it has been in the past, at least not yet this season. So that's just something that they're going to have to continue to force this year, because that's their number one weapon. The 2-man game between Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic is what led this team to a championship 18 months ago. That's what they're going to have to continue to try and do. I mean, Michael Porter Jr., I think, has been pretty good this year. He had a great game tonight. But if that 2-man game between Nikola Jokic and Jamal isn't there, everything else kind of falls apart in a way. At least what the Nuggets are trying to do offensively, because that's what this team has built their offensive philosophy around, is the 2-man game between Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. But it's another loss for the Nuggets. And again, I will stay consistent with my timeline. I said by middle of January, we'll really know who this year's Nuggets team is, and if it looks anything similar to what we've seen through the first 20 games of the season or wherever we are, Calvin Booth and this team is going to have to seriously consider making drastic changes, because you cannot waste the prime of Nikola Jokic. I mean, if that involves Jamal Murray in a trade and or Michael Porter Jr., if it looks like this in mid-January, I think this team will seriously need to consider making some big changes. And if that maybe is just getting a couple of secondary players that are consistent scorers off the bench, if that's what it's going to take, I mean, sure, I'm fine with that. Maybe you insert Russell Westbrook into the starting lineup. I mean, who knows? But it's kind of like, I go back to what the Avalanche did at the trade deadline last year when they traded Bo Byram to Buffalo for Casey Middlestat. And I remember the Avs GM, Chris McFarland, just simply saying, and I actually appreciated his honesty and his transparency. He said, look, it's just not working. Like, we love Bo Byram. He's going to be a really good player, but it just isn't working. So they made changes. And is that where we are with the Nuggets right now? Is that where we're going to be come trade deadline, where Calvin Booth is looking at this team and just says it's not working? Kind of like what McFarland did with the Avs last year. All right, let's bring in D-Mac here. D, what's up, dude?
Dan, that was kind of depressing, man. I'm not going to lie. It was depressing for both. It was a Nuggalanche. It was all depressing.
Yeah. Double loss tonight for the Avs and Nuggets. Marlo asked Scott this question on the broadcast, and I'll ask you, like, frustrating loss for the Nuggets, more frustrating or more disappointing in your opinion tonight, D-Mac?
Frustrating, because you made such a effort defensively, or you tried against Golden State, and that just seemed to all go away. I mean, they went 46% from three-pointer. They hit 22 three-pointers. Come on, man.
The Nuggets
can't allow that.
24 threes, D-Mac. They attempted 24 threes. The Cavs made 22.
Yeah, I mean, just get out there, defend, man. Can't allow that. Come on.
Well, they've been awful from perimeter defense. They've been awful this whole season. So that's honestly nothing new. And the Cavs are the best three-point shooting team in the NBA right now. It was such a weird first half, D-Mac, because at halftime, the Cavaliers had 14 made three-pointers. The Nuggets had 1. The Cavs bench outscored the Nuggets in that first half 28-6. But it was a 4-point game. And the only thing that kept the Nuggets in this game in the first half was points in the paint. The Nuggets outscored Cleveland 42-18. So I was kind of wondering during the game, I didn't get a chance to hear Malone's presser. I would be very interested if somebody asked him about this. But it felt like to me, D-Mac, this was the game plan going into this, was we understand how great of a shooting team Cleveland is. We're just kind of concede that and try and dominate in the painted area. And it worked for the most part in that first half. But I just kept thinking during the game, like, there's no way that this strategy is going to be able to be sustainable throughout the entirety of the game. And that's exactly what we saw play out in the second half.
Yeah, good analysis. I'll go with you on that. They couldn't stop Donovan Mitchell. They got killed off the bench. You had I don't know. Aside from Jokic, what are the bright spots? Seriously.
I thought Michael Porter Jr. had a pretty good game tonight overall. 22. I thought he was aggressive. He had 24 on 8 of 15 shooting. He had 4 steals. 2 blocks. So I actually thought MPJ was a bright spot tonight.
7 rebounds. Yeah.
5 of 6. Fairly efficient.
Yeah, I agree. And he was aggressive going to the hoop. Yeah. He had a good game. You're right.
So him and Jokic. But with Jokic, D-Mac, what was odd about his game, and he had another triple-double, passes Magic Johnson. Awesome. But was weird about Joker's game tonight, and I really think this says more about the team than it does Nikola Jokic. But these are going to happen every once in a while. He really struggled in that third quarter. He shoots 2 of 8 from the field. I counted 3 missed bunnies, which are shots he makes 98% of the time, 5 feet or into the rim. And if if he's not Superman like all the time, this team has no shot. I mean, it was a 4-point game at halftime, and they're down 15 or 16 at the end of the third quarter because Joker couldn't make a shot.
Right. It's always tough being critical of Nikola. It's because, I mean, where do we put the, 20 rebounds and 11 assists? What bucket do we put that in? But you're not wrong. It's 50% shooting from the floor. Usually he's better than that by a little bit, right? And he did not hit a 3. I don't know, though, man. I mean, it's still 27, 20, and 11, dude. Like, I mean, somebody else has got to stand up at some point. I understand what you're saying, but he goes for 27. MPJ goes for 24, and you get 16 off the bench, bro. I mean,
Harris LeVert had 21 off the bench by himself for Cleveland. He outscored the Nuggets bench as a whole by 5 points, D-Mac.
Dude, Sam Merrill from Utah State went on a mission to score buckets, and he had 8 points. Sam Merrill, who? Like, what are we doing here? LeVert with 21. I mean, like you said, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
LeVert had 5 threes, D-Mac. He had 5 threes off the bench. The Nuggets had 6 threes as a team. This is just, and my point with the Jokic thing in the third quarter is he's allowed to have a bad quarter or a bad half or even a bad game every once in a while. It's gonna happen. But the problem is the Nuggets cannot afford for him to ever do that because they're not deep enough. And to be just my honest opinion, they're just not talented enough right now to be able to overcome a bad quarter or a bad game from Jokic. It's just, they're not there.
They are arguably right now the worst defensive team in the NBA.
It sure looks like it.
So what do you do with that one?
Malone's got to be just super pissed about the defense. I mean, we both know Malone and how fiery he is and how obsessive he is about the defense. Let's not forget, as good as the Nuggets are on offense, and that's because of Nikola Jokic, Malone is a defensive-minded, defensive-first head coach. He has got to be at his wits' end with the defense this year. What do you think it is? Is it personnel? Is it strategy? I mean, like, for the most part, they have a pretty similar roster to what they had last year, minus KCP, insert Christian Brown, who in my opinion is just as good, if not a better defender than KCP was. So that's where I'm just kind of like, man, what is going on? Now, Jamal Murray has been horrendous on the defensive end. That could be a part of it, but I did not expect their defense to be this bad this season.
I'm looking at the scoring they give up, opponents' points per game. The Nuggets are at 116.8. The Jazz are at 118, so they're not the worst. And then New Orleans, who's in last place, is 116. The thing that's keeping the Nuggets in, which is crazy actually, is they're averaging 117.9, so almost 118 points per game offensively. And then in the Eastern Conference, there's a couple teams that are actually lousier than the Nuggets. The Hawks, that's interesting. They're 118.4, but they've been playing well of late. They're 6-4 in their last 10. The Bulls are awful at 123.2. The Pacers are at 118.2. But these are the Raptors are 117. 123.6 for the Wizards. Thank God we play the Wizards next, right?
Yeah.
The Wizards are the worst team in the NBA. You want to talk about stupid must-wins, Dan? Stupid must-wins. Yeah. Saturday is a stupid must-win for the Nuggets.
You can't lose that game. You're right. You cannot lose that game.
It is a must-freaking win game on Saturday against the stupid Wizards.
As much of a game in early December can be a must-win, I'm with you, man. Right. Like, and then you got Atlanta. and then you got
Yeah, I
come
don't know
home
about
against the
that. It's gonna be
Clippers,
close.
and then you go to Sacramento, and then you go to Portland, and then you go to New Orleans.
Well, no,
Like
don't forget you got right, Clippers. Right. That's
so
the
these next 6 games, and I said on my post-game show the other night that Cleveland was going to be tough. I mean, they're a really good team. Let's give them credit because they are absolutely on fire to start this year. But these next 6 games, man, they got to win at least, at minimum, 4 of those games,
I'm gonna
maybe
call this
5.
stretch. Dan, see how I do on this nickname. I'm gonna call this the Christmas light stretch for the Nuggets. Why?
Okay.
What are the 2 colors? What are the 2 colors for Christmas?
Red and green.
Okay. In ESPN, red loss is a red,
Yeah.
green, a win is green, a W. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me do this. Christmas lights. It's the Christmas light stretch for the Nuggets.
Yes.
November 16th, red, loss. November 19th, win, green. November 22nd, loss to Dallas, red.
Wow.
At Los Angeles, green, win. Against New York, loss, red. Utah, W, green. LA, red, loss, win, green, loss. Cleveland, dude, this is sick. It's loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And probably a win against Washington. It's the Christmas light season for the Nuggets.
The inconsistent Christmas is what we could call it.
The inconsistent Christmas season,
or the seesaw Christmas, just back and forth.
It's like lights on a tree. It's red, green, red, green. That is crazy, don't you think? That is pretty bananas.
Honestly, it's kind of a beautiful metaphor for just how not only the season has played out so far, but like how each individual player besides Jokic has played this year for the Nuggets. I mean, Michael Porter Jr., I will say, has actually been pretty comparatively to his career overall. He's been pretty damn consistent so far this year. And that's what's so weird to me is that, I've said from the beginning of the season, MPJ is the X factor. If he can average, I think he's right around 18 points per game this season, DMAC. And I said before the season, he needs to be around 22 to 23 in order for this team to legitimately compete for another championship.
By the way, he's not. Go ahead. Sorry. I just want to point out when this all happened, when this all started, because you lost your first 2 games at home. It sucked. But then you won, Dan, 7 out of your next 8 games. Okay. So after the 2 losses, and including 5 in a row. So you lost 2, you won 2, you lose 1, you win 5 in a row. But you did win 7 of your 8 games after the 2 losses. Life outside basketball. Malone stays home for volleyball. They lose to New Orleans. Jamal, goes to an MMA fight. They lose the next day to Memphis. Jokic is missing all the games for baby number 2. And you do win against Memphis. But it looks like that was the trigger for all this, Dan. Life outside basketball trip. That does look like that is where we got into the Christmas light season, where they're wildly inconsistent. And it started there because you won 5 games in a row. Like, what's the problem? And you're playing New Orleans, who sucks. So, it was without like everybody in that game.
Yeah, Zion, they had a bunch of guys out.
Remember that?
A bunch of guys. Oh yeah, Jose Alvarado, who's crushed the Nuggets over the years, out. Have we been too lenient on Malone for those incidents? I mean, I'm trying to think of like. Was that his call, do you think, to allow Jamal to go? I don't know.
I don't know.
I
think what it signaled is you thought you could kind of be all right. It's early in the year, and maybe they will be all right, Dan. Maybe they will. But hey, I'm just telling you what the start of it was. There was no Jokic, baby. Malone, volleyball. Jamal was there. He was terrible. I'm looking at it now. 6 of 15, 1 of 8 from 3, 13 points in that first game against Memphis. That was when he went to the fight the night before. So Jamal was whatever with the fight. He was there and sort of not there. Jokic wasn't there. And Malone wasn't there. This is the Memphis game. So, I guess Malone was there for the Memphis game. He wasn't there for the New Orleans game. You know what? Let me look up that New Orleans game because I was looking up. You know who didn't play for Memphis, Dan, in that game?
John Morant.
Well, John Morant's out. Yeah.
Yeah. Like no Zion with the Pelicans, no John Morant. Those were games where I was looking at those before they actually played the games. I'm like, oh man, what an opportunity for the Nuggets. On the road, both teams are missing their best players. In fact, the Pelicans were missing and the Grizzlies were both missing a bunch of guys. And then the UFC thing, the volleyball thing, Jokic is understandable. Okay, I get it. We've talked about that, and you've given me your thoughts on that, where maybe could have worked that out a little bit better.
I'm gonna lose that one. Forget it. It's
I get
fine.
it. I get it. I get it.
Let me give you the starting lineup. Let me give you the starting lineup for the Pelicans that night, Dan. Starting lineup. This is who you lost to. Brandon Ingram. All right, he's pretty good. He had a big night. Yeah. He had 29 points.
Yeah.
Yves Missy. Isn't he that rookie? Missy?
Never heard of him.
Yves? He's that rookie from France, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. Love that guy.
Wait, am I wrong? Yeah, no.
I don't know.
Well, no. I don't know where the hell he's from. Anyways, that guy. Then you got Trey Murphy the third. He's all right, actually. Brandon Boston Jr. He had 19. Javonte Green.
That game.
I think Javonte Green played running back for the Packers one year. I don't know. Then who are these guys? This is the team you lost to?
Yeah.
Off the bench, Jamal Cain, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Trey Jennison the third, Jalen Noel. Who? What?
Yeah. Nuggets didn't have Joker or Aaron Gordon. So,
No, that's true.
I mean,
or Michael Malone that night.
Or Michael Malone.
I'm just pointing out when all this shit happened. That's all. I'm only pointing out like when we win Christmas lights in the season. Win, loss, loss, win, that's
I mean, I would assume you're pointing it out for a reason, are you not?
I'm pointing it out because you had won 5 games in a row before that. Like things were looking all right. You had won 7 of 8 games after dropping your first 2. It's like it was okay. We were cool. It was all good. And you focus, you win. You don't focus, you lose. Bump, 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 bump.
Listen, I get it,
dude.
I get it, and we're kind of dancing around it. But the bottom line is, somebody, whether it's somebody in the organization or a veteran like DeAndre Jordan or somebody, should have told Jamal Murray, dude, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? How seriously are we taking this season? Coach Malone, look, I am all about family, dude. But to me, that was a little weird. I'll just say it that way. Okay, let me ask you this, D-Mac.
Yeah.
If, let's just say the Avs are on a road trip, okay, and Arturi Lehkonen wants to go to an EDM concert, I don't know, on one of their off nights. What do you think Nathan McKinnon, what do you think his thoughts would have been on one of his teammates traveling to another city on an off night when they have a game the next day?
Not great, Bob.
What do you think he would have said?
Well, I don't know if he would have said anything because he barely talks. He's another mumbler.
I bet he would have. He doesn't talk to us. He talks to his guys, I'm sure.
I don't think it would. I think it would go over like a fart in church. It would not go over well. Hey, I get it, Dan. Listen, bro. I mean, that stretch was LOB, life outside basketball.
Yep.
So, and by the
fine
way,
with life outside of basketball in the summer, but we're in season.
They've had 2 nights where they could have come home from LA. 2 nights where they stayed in LA rather than come home because of sleep reasons, I guess. Well,
and because who I can't, was it Jamal that said it? Because a bunch of guys lived there too. Because a bunch of guys. So it wasn't just for sleep reasons.
I guess.
I guess. I mean, Jamal said it. We're not saying anything that isn't out there in the public. So look,
I know.
it's just it's so uncharacteristic of this team with the leadership that they have in Malone and Nicola. It just was such an odd moment in the season, to your point, that it just felt like something culturally for the Nuggets has shifted. I mean, does it feel that way to you?
Yes. Yes. And
It does to me too.
it sucks
Yep.
because we love this team. We know what this team has been. We had, you got Charles Barkley saying if you don't make a trade, you're going to blow it for Jokic. You can't miss out. You got Charles Barkley saying that. That's not even us. That's Charles Barkley saying it.
Yep.
So, and if you're going to make a trade, you've got to make a trade that's going to make a difference. It's not. Yeah. We're not talking about picking up, somebody because Saric stinks. That's not good enough. It's got to be something more substantial.
Yeah, well, I said earlier before you came on, if they're going to make a trade, I'm still sticking to my timeline, mid-January. They need to really understand what they're looking at by mid-January. But to your point, DMAC, it can't just be, hey, let's go pick up this rotational piece for a draft pick. Nope. You're really going to have to consider MPJ or Jamal, in my opinion. Yeah. That is the bottom line. If it continues to look this way by mid-January.
I agree. If they're a 500 team, win, lose, either you're serious about winning with Jokic or you're not. That's the truth. And the deal would have to involve MPJ or Jamal or both. Yeah. That's it. That's all you got. That's what you got. That's worth anything.
It's so frustrating because, like Chuck said, you've got the best player in the world. We'll probably never see a player like this in our lifetimes for the Nuggets ever again. So to see this team, at least this year so far, look like they're sort of squandering it, it's frustrating, man. It is.
Yep.
So, all right. I'll let you go,
all
D.
Right,
thanks
for
popping
buddy.
on.
I appreciate it. All right, I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
All right, there he goes, D-Mac. As, we're... And I mean that. I know a lot of you listening probably feel the same way. I've seen a lot of people on our show, our Noon to 3 show with D-Mac, Scott Hastings, and Tyler Columbus, text in about being very frustrated with sort of what's been going on during the Jokic era, post-championship, I will say, because I think a lot of you understand, like I just mentioned, how incredibly rare it is to have a player like this in our town. And you never want to say never, but it's a highly likely possibility that Nikola Jokic will be the best basketball player in the city and the state of Colorado in our lifetimes. So it's frustrating. My guy Kevin says, wait a minute here. What about a trade with AG? AG to me is a glue guy. I think he's too valuable to the Nuggets. D-Mac said it, and I agree with him. This is probably the worst defensive team in the NBA right now. They were even worse when Aaron Gordon was out. What he provides, the versatility he provides this team on both ends of the floor is invaluable. So AG, for me, is off the table. Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal, not so much. And again, mid-January. I'm not ready to make this declaration of they need to trade one of them or both until that deadline, because I still want to see how this early portion of the season is going to play out. But if it doesn't look significantly better by the middle of January, all of you calling for a big trade, I will be right there with you. I just want to see a little bit more. So, and Russell Westbrook, he's been really good for the most part. He has in the role he's in. He's been good. He's been plenty good. That is not the reason the Nuggets are struggling. Dario Saric, on the other hand, I think is hurting this team just in the sense of, like I've talked about, This team needs a legitimate backup 5, so Joker doesn't have to play damn near 40 minutes a game. I think he's averaging 38 minutes a game right now this season. It's too much. He needs to be at like a 32, 33-minute mark in the regular season. So we'll see. I mean, January 15th, that's about 6 weeks away. This team has 6 weeks to show me that they can right the ship. And if not, then I do think some drastic changes need to be made. If this was a young and up-and-coming team, I wouldn't be nearly this aggressive as far as like making a trade. But like we've talked about, you are in the prime of the Jokic era. You got to go for it. And if it's not working, they've got to make changes. Simple as that. But 6 weeks left, and we'll reassess and really sort of, I think we'll have a pretty good idea of, can this team win a championship this year or not? And if the answer to that question is no, then I think we'll see changes coming. But great stuff, by the way. Okay, I do want to get one more comment here from Kevin, because I do like this comment that I want to address here really quick. DT, we can't get rid of Jamal because he's a glue guy too. Kevin, I'm with you, man. And this is going to sound weird, but Jamal, to me, was a glue guy. He doesn't look like a glue guy right now. And he hasn't for quite a while. He hasn't at all this season. He didn't look like a glue guy in the second half of last year or in the playoffs for the most part last year either. I mean, I get what you're saying. He doesn't look like a glue guy right now. The two-man game has just sort of poof disappeared. I mean, what the hell happened to that? That's the Nuggets bread and butter right there. And we have seen the two-man game be a shell of itself so far this season. So I'm at the point right now. Now, the problem with Jamal, trading Jamal, is he's lost a ton of value and he just signed a big contract. So not only has his play declined, but his pay has exponentially gone way up. So his value in a trade this time compared to this time a year ago, Jamal Murray's trade value has plummeted. I mean, it's like the stock market crashing. So that's another thing to consider when it comes to, should Jamal Murray be on the trade block? That's something else Calvin Booth's got to consider. Can he get back enough value for what Jamal would be providing him if he didn't trade him? Right now, I think the answer to that question is no, he could not. But we'll see. Like I said, 6 weeks from now, we'll have a pretty good idea of, at least I think I will, of what this team should do at the trade deadline. So anyways, tough loss for the Nuggets tonight. Again, the Cavs are a really good team. I mean, they're on fire. 20-3 to start the season. They started 17-0. They've got a really good squad there in Cleveland. Evan Mobley's a beast. Donovan Mitchell we all know how good Donovan Mitchell has been over the course of his career. Darius Garland, I've always really liked his game. And they've got a really deep bench too. So that's definitely something that the Nuggets are envious of right now, is how deep the Cavs are on the bench. But tough loss for the Nuggets tonight. Again, they lose 126-114 there in Cleveland. They will play the Washington Wizards coming up on Saturday. That's a 5:00 game local time here, and we'll be doing post game right around 7:30 for that on Saturday evening as well. And also, just quickly, I don't have a time locked down yet, but we will have the Nuggets head coach Michael Malone on our show tomorrow with D-Mac, Scott Hastings, and Tyler Columbus sometime between noon and 3. As soon as I get that information, I'll tweet that out from my account at DanTanner091 and from our station account at Altitude SR. So we'll be talking to Coach Malone about this game tonight and the road trip moving forward. So thank you all so much for listening. Tough loss for the Nuggets and Avs tonight. Hopefully they can get things rolling. Both of them play again on Saturday. So quick turnaround. Hopefully they can both right the ship coming up on Saturday. But that's going to do it for the post-game show. Nuggets fall to the Cavs. Thanks for listening to In the Paint. Have a good night, everybody.